This is the third time this week you've been late. What's going on?
Well, the first time I missed the train. The second time I set my alarm to PM instead of AM. This time, I thought it was Saturday.
You know, every time I ask about your timing, you give me a new excuse each time.
I swear, next time, I'll be on time. This time was just a one-time thing, again.
You have said that so many times, I have lost count. It's about time you respect company time. Are you being serious?
Chill, I respect time. I just have bad timing all the time.
We don't have time for this conversation. I'm giving you one last chance this time.
Thanks, boss. I won't waste your time next time. This time, I guess I really mean it.
Yes, I know this story sucks, but what I'm trying to say is that I have already mentioned over 10 times the word time, and I'm still mentioning more and more time of time. It seems like the term time has depth. The depths tend to be unknown, but all of us assume that we already know time and use it whenever we want. Then, I once questioned myself, what is truly time? Let me find my answer on Google. Wait, so time is measurable existence? And it is measurable in different format? Isn't this just a pure measurement of time, rather than time itself? I still don't understand. What is this? What is truly time? Now let's welcome to the topic of time, which is a rather broad one compared to the other topics in my previous videos. When we think about time, we think that we know perfectly what actually is time. But now, let me ask you a quick question. Do you live in the time, at the time, or of the time? Maybe you can answer this question, but I can't really answer it before I started my researches on time. Well, I assume that you are the same with me, as I suppose that most of us don't actually know what is actually time. Nowadays, people view time as the defined time, which is what I found on Google earlier. The part of existence that is measured in minutes, days, years, etc., or this process considered as a whole. I also found only the fact related to time. The current system of time used around the world is based on the Gregorian calendar and the 24-hour clock, coordinated by an international standard called Coordinated Universal Time (UTC). UTC allows clock worldwide to be synchronized regardless of time zones. It is a genius way of cooperating time. So basically, a system of time, not time itself, does one thing. It creates a common perception of time for everyone so that something consistent can be implemented together. It differentiates time in seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, and more. It's a smart way to create something between humanity, to find a way to communicate, a constant that people can rely on for their daily doings and more. But today, our video is not to talk about the system of time, but we are going to talk about time itself rather than a measurement of it. There is a famous sentence that really says how unknown time can be. What then is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I wish to explain it to the one that asked, I know not. This is a question that demonstrated the paradox of time. We use and understand the word effortlessly in daily life, but when we try to explain it, we can't even spit one word out of it. And this is what Saint Augustine of Hippo mentioned in the book Confessions. He proposes different ideas on what is actually time to him. He thinks that time is always changing rather than being a constant and unchanging entity. Past times wouldn't exist if nothing had passed, and future time wouldn't exist if nothing were coming. Likewise, the present wouldn't exist unless it became the past. If the present never passed, then it would not be time, as it would be eternity in that case. Time exists by always moving away from itself. This reminds me that the consciousness defined by Sartre, where it is constantly shifting no matter what happens. Augustine said, so, namely, that we cannot truly say that time is, but because it is tending not to be. For him, time is not truly a being because of its fleeting nature. We can't say that time is, since time tends to be not be. What about measuring it? How can we measure something that tends to be non-existent? We can, but it occurs in our mind. At the time when we perceive the time is in the motion of fleeting, so the initial perception towards the time is the measurement of it. For example, what you think of time now is time, but when the past no longer exists and the future doesn't yet exist, it can't be perceived, because it's not moving. And what you see will be eternity, a characteristic that time itself does not possess. Derived from this, he suggests that maybe only the present exists, since we can't perceive time past and time yet to come. As when we perceive time that is past, it is actually memory in our present, and when we perceive time that is yet to come, It is actually an expectation in our present. There are 3 times, only one, which is the present time. But these present tend to be non-existent due to the nature of not being able to be measured since it has no space or duration. He said again, what now is clear and plain is that neither things to come nor past are, nor is it properly said there be 3 times, past, present, and to come. Yet perchance it might be properly said there be 3 times, a present of things past, a present of things present, and a present of things future. Now, let's look at another perspective. How does Immanuel Kant perceive time? To Kant, time is not a concept and it's not derived from experience. Before we need to understand the concept, we need to look at Kant's core idea on ways of understanding how we gain knowledge. There are 2 major types of ways to gain knowledge. The first one is a priori knowledge, where those are knowledges that comes before experience, meaning that it is independent of what we learn from the senses. It is universal and it is always true. The other type is called a posteriori knowledge. Those are knowledge that comes after experience. It depends on sensory input from what we see, hear, and touch. It is not always certain as it can change. Time to Kant is an a priori intuition. We presuppose it when thinking about anything. Everything we perceive are perceived in time. He says that time is a necessary representation that grounds all intuitions. Time is perceived as phenomena to human beings. We can imagine time, but given that it's in the experience itself rather than at the outside of our experience. Time is singular, infinite, while continuous. Kant concluded time is more to a form other than being an object. To conclude his idea, time is a condition for the possibility of experience and it's real, namely the real form of inner intuition. Time is a form of inner sense as it is needed for inner experience, just like how space is needed for outer experience. If there is no time, you couldn't experience change, movement, succession, or even self-consciousness. It's the time in intuition makes any sequence of experiences possible. Let's look at another perspective from Henry Bergson, the author of Time and Free Will. He calls time as pure duration, where it is the form of which the succession of our conscious states assumes when our ego lets itself live, when it refrains from separating its present states from its former states. It means that pure duration is how we naturally experience time within ourselves when we don't try to break it into pieces. He distinguished clock time from live inner time, which he calls
La durée,
which means duration. Clock time is called as homogeneous time, where it is a conventional concept that built onto the moments where time can be counted. As for pure duration, it is not just a measure but a flowing, lived experience. Duration is the subjective flow of consciousness where our mental states melt into one another, forming an indivisible whole. For example, let's use melody as an example. You don't really hear isolated notes, but everything together. This is what Bergson means by duration. It is qualitative and continuous rather than being separated and counted one by one. It's not about counting each note out, but viewing them as a whole melody. Each moment has a quality of its own. This is why time is called as qualitative multiplicity. He warns against confusing the 2 fundamentals of his, the space and time. Conception of time used by science is definitely a type of space where people treat it by divide them to measurable units. But this specialized time is an abstraction. It's not representing the true time, the flow that mentioned by Bergson. However, the specialized time represented with space, is very useful for science, in particular physics and mechanics, but this is really not an accurate reflection of the true time. Due to this, we often think we are perceiving the true time directly, but what we actually did was converting our experience into spaces into our minds. We line up every single fraction in dots, and this spatial representation falsifies the real, flowing nature of inner time. And yet to this day, we are still doing it. Maybe at this point you started to question, why do you want to know what is time? What differences it makes if you know what is the true time? But this is the core problem that we human, as knowledge pursuers, face. We can't really know what will happen after knowing the truth, therefore we need to know the truth. We can't assume that we know what is unknown, therefore we need to know the unknown. Only after you truly know the unknown, then you can say it is not important for us. How can we assume that it's not important before knowing what it is? Back to where we stopped just now, the current conception of time traps us into assumptions towards everything, since time is a priori intuition. It is founded without experience, meaning that if we combine these together, we are trying to say that what the current conception of time is something that we know before experiencing it. You might not feel the impact now, but let me give you an example. One day, after your 18th birthday, you say that you have grown up and you are an adult already. But now, you can see the current conception of time in the linkage between age and adult. Age is indeed a conception of time, and we here assume that adult is a form of maturity constructed by society. But this doesn't make any sense. There are people who are way younger than 18 and is already matured, and there are people who are way older than 18 that is not mature enough to be called as an adult. This is a really common experience for me, and I assume that it is common to you as well. If Henry Bergson were to judge this example, he would probably say that this is exactly the problem of clock time or measured time. It reduces life into fixed states rather than being a flow. What we should look at is the real, flowing personal experience of time of one. That is what defines maturity, isn't it? Why are we using the conception of time, the clock time, to judge one's maturity in the legal aspect? Isn't finding the truth of time and use it as a basis for judging one's maturity a better and wiser choice? To conclude, to Bergson, pure duration is the core of one's consciousness and freedom. It represents how we truly experience reality, especially consciousness, memory, emotion, and free will. This is the second last philosopher's ideas on time. He uses the term
Dasein
to represent the human being as being there. Yes, it's Martin Heidegger, the famous author of Being and Time. We first look at the root of his philosophy. He argues that Dasein is always projecting itself towards the future and always moving towards its own death. In this case, he thinks that Dasein has finitude and uniqueness. His core idea lies on the idea that human is whole when human is dead, as dying is the completion of Dasein existence. But where is time in this argument? The anticipation of death reveals that Dasein is not a sequence of nouns, and the past, present, and future are not just points on the timeline, but rather it's an existential structure that opens up our choice. They give meaning to how we live. He differentiates between two perceptions of time, the ordinary or vulgar time, and the temporality of time. For ordinary time, which is like the clock time defined by Bergson just now, is a linear succession of nouns, and it's defined by default societal wills. Tuesday follow Monday, 1 second after 10 o'clock, and such things are called ordinary time for Martin Heidegger. This is also called inauthentic time to him, as it's measured from the outside and detached from our experience. Temporality, or Temporalität, which is what Heidegger refers as the true meaning of life, is a different perception. It is time as lived and experienced by Dasein, and it has three interrelated dimensions including future, past, and present, which he refers them as projection, throwness, and fallenness. For future, Heidegger says that Dasein is always ahead of itself, and we are defined not by where we are, but where we are going, which is our potential. For past, he thinks that past shapes people, but it requires one to carry it into the present. And last, present is always in the world, engaging with things right now. The idea of being towards death is a temporal one. We live ahead of ourselves, while our past has handed down traditions and experiences to us. Time, for Heidegger, is not a container in which life happens, but the very shape of our existence, always oriented around what lies ahead. It is in us rather than it's what we perceive or see. It is the structure of our being itself. We are beings whose very existence is temporal. We live by projecting ourselves into the future, interpreting ourselves through our past, and engaging with the present. He said, temporality is the condition for the possibility of Dasein's understanding of being. The last philosopher on this topic started his argument for time with, it will be convenient to begin our inquiry by asking whether anything existent can possess the characteristic of being in time. I shall endeavor to prove that it cannot. This means that he thinks that time is unreal, as there is nothing existing can have the characteristic of being in time. He is John McTaggart, alias McTaggart, the author of The Nature of Existence. He stated that positions in time are distinguished in two ways, A series and B series. The A series, events are characterized as past, present or future, and these properties are constantly changing. The B series, events are ordered by earlier than or later than relationships, which are fixed and do not change over time. He thinks that A series is fundamental to us since we experience time as flowing, and it gives us this changing quality that we experience, rather than fixed order like B series. As for B series, he gives an example. If M is ever earlier than N, it is always earlier. This represents the idea of B series, where events are ordered by earlier than or later than relationships. For A series, you can imagine the event you are experiencing now. It is present now, but it was future and will be past. However, given the perfect idea of A series, he identified a contradiction. An event cannot simultaneously be past, present, and future. Yet, to exist in time, an event must possess all three properties at different times. He tended to find a solution, but found another issue, namely the infinite regress problem. Let's look at it. For example, you have a toy robot, it's walking across the room. You ask, what makes the robot move? You say, well, it moves because time is passing. First it was here, now it's there. Now you wonder, how do I know time is passing? You say, because things change, like the robot moving. So far that makes sense. Now imagine this. You ask, when did the robot become now? When did it go from not yet to happening to already happen? To answer that, you say, it became present at some other time. But wait, you just used another time to explain this time. So now you have a new question. When did that new time happen? And to explain that, you need another new time, and another, and it never ends. We conclude then that the distinction of past, present, and future are essential to time, and that if the distinctions are never true of reality, then no reality is in time. As for B series, he thinks that time requires changes, but there is no mechanism for the flow of change in B series, so B series is not time. He proposes a solution called the C series, which is basically just a sequence of events or things arranged in a fixed order, but without any idea of time passing. It's like the B series, but without any earlier or later meaning. It is just a pure static order. Using this C series, he showed that time is unreal. How? C series is what we got after understanding the contradiction of A series and the problems of non-existence of flow of B series. C series represents what is logically derivable from the argument, but it itself is not a time, since it's static, like pictures in a photo album, just frozen in order. This is his proposing of the unreality of time. Time doesn't seem to be real at all. It is really shocking to hear that how the ideas were raised. Although they might have the same structure of concept of time, the root is quite different. Some says that time can be experienced, or some say it cannot. Some say it's real, but some say it isn't. But I found one thing that is in common, which is the current time that we think we know of, is a measurement of the time. But to me, time is a flow. When I try to constant it, it is not time, but rather a constant representation of time that I have defined. Does time exist to me? Yes, I do think so. We can easily experience it, but it cannot be the future or the past, since when we wanted to experience the past, we have already experienced it, and remember it in our present. So basically, past is present. As for future, that it is yet to come, we haven't experienced it, but it is in my present time that I think of it. So basically, future is present as well. So, to me, time does exist, it's the thing that let me presuppose everything, while at the same time I don't know enough of it. The nearest thing that I can say is that it relates to consciousness. Without consciousness, does time to me exist? Probably not. As with consciousness, I can feel the flow. Without consciousness, I can't feel the flow. For example, when I sleep, I don't have consciousness as I don't know where am I and what I am during sleeping. At that time, I can't really feel the time is flowing. So, to conclude my argument, time exists given the fact you have consciousness. You might argue that when I am sleeping, time is flowing as well. But the problem is, I can't feel it and experience it during states where I do not have consciousness. You might say, use your phone to record the time while you are sleeping. If anything moves, then time exists out of your consciousness. But for me, I do not agree, as what you see in the phone is your time. But what I see and what I feel with my time is fundamentally different from each other. When I see myself in the video, I still see time as a present, and I still can't experience what is truly the time, but I do not have direct consciousness. And of course, I'm not saying using the current measurement of time is not suitable. It is a really good way to keep track of everything, but remember that it is not time. It is just a measurement of it. Before answering our main confusion, I hope that if you enjoyed the video, you can subscribe, like and comment down below, and share it anywhere you like. So, answering our main question, time is something that we presuppose and we flow through it. It can't really be measured as there is no duration in our present time. It is not a mere measurement of it. The current system is just a measurement of it, and it should not be treated as the true time. Hopefully after watching this video, it introduces you to explore more about what is truly time. At least if Augustine asks you that question again, this time, I think you can answer it better. Keep in mind that what I say might be or might not be right, and I summarize the argument and concepts in my own understanding. More videos are on the way, so stay tuned. I will try to upload 3 to 4 times a month from now on, and this is the end of the video. Thanks and bye!